Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to talk about the vacuna, the gangster stuff in life. And I have interesting opinion about it. I know everybody has an opinion. And Jubilee made a video about how anti-vaxxers and vaxxers are gonna have their opinion or whatever. For me, I come from a country that we don't usually medicate people. We always try to avoid it, like just cover yourself. If you're sick, just keep watching movie, just chill and eat healthy and drink a lot of water. We don't do a lot of stuff. A lot of people are like, yeah, but you need the medicine. But I agree, you don't want to have like a gangster high fever, but that's how we think. So vaccine, a lot of people don't want to take it on my island. Not everybody, but a lot of kind of spectacle. Well, not so, well, they don't trust it. And and in Spain right now, I actually have a family member. She took some shots. She had some weird blood clot in her legs, and now she can't walk. Well, the whole family is in a panic because they're like, yo man, this is supposed to help me. Why am I taking it then if you're gonna tell me to wear the mask anyway because I can still infect other people? It's like, aren't the people that are more susceptible have to take it so that if we infect him, nothing is gonna happen and herd immunity will help us? So it's just weirdly logic and it doesn't really make sense. So I saw this video. Let's see what they're saying because it's an interesting topic and I want to know everybody's opinion because not everybody is that sick. So what is the best choice?
COVID-19 scares me.
It doesn't really scare me at all. It might scare my wife because she has asthma.
Yeah, so for me, I have asthma. I was born with it, which is why I keep myself isolated. I just don't want to put myself in a position where I got to call my mom and say, hey, come to California. I'm in trouble.
Friends who have gotten sick, friends who have passed away. I'm just very concerned for my parents, my aunt, my cousins, everybody,
Yeah.
so including myself.
Right.
I actually work with COVID patients since the very beginning, so I'm also scared that I can contact from my patients and I can give it to my parents.
So unpredictable.
Yeah.
A year ago when this started, the first patient in LA County came to our hospital. 13 people that were on a ski trip in Italy. And when I walked into the room to talk to him about it, what he told me kind of made the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Yeah.
7 of them ended up getting hospitalized. 2 of them were on a respirator, were on blood pressure medicines, on ECMO, fighting for their lives. And these are people in their 40s, 50s, 60s. That right off the bat caused me to call all my relatives and tell them, stay the hell home.
I'm in my 40s, but I'm not really worried for myself. I am worried for my wife. Especially in the beginning, I was in fear. I remember I knew about COVID before it even happened in March. I was already on 4chan reading those news, interesting stuff, and somebody was actually talking about this whole COVID thing in China that was happening, Wuhan. And I was telling my wife, she was like, that's never gonna arrive over here. I'm like, bam, there it was in March. I remember I called my wife. Did you see the news? Did you see the news? Let's go home. She was like, what? I said, because tomorrow Spain is going to have this Women's March, when supposedly there is a pandemic coming over. And what happened? Madrid was hit very hard.
I thought I was going to be the only one.
I guess I would say it doesn't scare me in the same manner as I've heard from you guys because I had it. I got it back in January before it was cool.
Let me move away.
Yeah, I'm good now, right? My 74-year-old mom who came to visit had it. My 6-year-old godson, my 3-year-old godson, my 40-year-old best friend, 32-year-old roommate. The kids went through like this. My mom, 11 days. It was weird for her, but she's healthy as hell. And that's my own personal story. And then I have not changed my lifestyle since this thing started. If anything, I've gone out more. I've been going to rallies since June. And I've been around multiple people of all ages, consistently hugged, hung out with every Saturday for 6-7 months. Nothing. But yet I'm only being told one side of the story.
Well, for me, it's not really a fear because I grew up undocumented. So there's a lot of other things that I grew up fearing, cops being one of those. And COVID, it got my grandmother, it got my aunt, my uncle. My aunt and uncle did pass away in Mexico. It got a handful of my friends. But to say that I'm afraid of it and to change my life and stay home and then feed that to my 4-year-old, that's not the way that I have chosen to live.
I can get where she is coming from, because it's not that you're afraid of the thing. I'm more afraid for my wife, as I said before. But with time, it's like you see certain people get it and nothing happens. I just was a sick cough or whatever. And then it makes you wonder, like, how far are we supposed to go? How dangerous is it? But if I knew how many people died of the flu, I'm still not afraid about it, because I know my body. I had the flu. I'm Gucci. So if I see a bunch of people get the COVID and they're still Gucci, and I know I'm healthier than them, I'm just trying to explain the dilemma. You want me to be afraid of something that maybe I'm not that afraid. And then I have to change my whole life, and that change is causing me a lot more stress with my kids, and my kids copy me. And I had like an autistic son. Going outside was very important for him. So you were asking me stay inside and let my kid watch the iPad 24/7. I could not handle that. So as a father at home, I says, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna tell my boss my kid needs stimulation. So I'm gonna work, talk, and play with my kid. I'm not gonna dump him for 8 hours and let him play with the iPad or with the drum without any social interaction. So it has humongous consequences if I just did what they were asking me. And most people's response was, well, you're alive.
As I do agree that fear in itself can cause so much stress. It can lower your immune system, and it can just put your mind in such a state of panic and trauma that I feel like that in itself could be so much more detrimental in the long run.
I think that's my big issue with it, because I just, after this thing, then what? When we're too afraid to come up to strangers.
Yeah.
Like, how are we supposed to get
I
through our
think
stuff?
you should be aware. I don't think it's ever good to, to cause mass fear on the population. But I think, knowledge is power.
Yep.
So you have to be able to understand what's going on around you and adapt around you.
What I've had to do with my students is to make them aware of it being okay. Have you gone outside today? Did you go get some fresh air? Okay, let's do some exercise. Do a plank competition in the house, at least something that's active, because they are so recluse. And that's the part that is concerning.
Yeah, within the first few weeks, one of my doctors asked me to see a patient. She'd been into the emergency room 3 times within a week. She was convinced she had COVID. And she had some of the symptoms. She had chest tightness, shortness of breath. And they were going to do a 4th test. Her 3 previous ones were all negative. So I walked in, and I'm like, do you have any kids? She's like, yeah, I have a 10-month-old, but he's fine. Don't worry about him. I'm like, what do you mean he's fine? Don't worry about him. She's like, I use Clorox. I just make sure that this virus doesn't come anywhere around. I'm like, what about with your groceries? She's like, my groceries, I use bleach on them. Oh, no. I told her, I'm like, I looked at your CAT scan. You don't have COVID, but you have a chemical pneumonitis.
Yes.
From all this bleach, from all these chemicals that you have introduced, you just put yourself in harm. And I'm like, go home, do what you normally do.
Coronavirus on surfaces and objects naturally die within hours to days. Warmer temperature and exposure to sunlight will reduce the time the virus survives on surface and object. Well, I'm in a house that is very well illuminated. So my house is not gonna smell like Clorox and everything. But then that surprises me that some of these people live actually inside, like in apartment buildings. They don't even have a garden. They don't open the window.
I just feel like it has been blown to a proportion that it doesn't need to be. Yes, be safe, be cautious.
Everyone should get a COVID-19 vaccine.
Woo! This one is get spicy. Everyone should get the COVID-19 vaccine? No, I don't think so. I think my immunity will be strong enough with time. But that's me. The people that have to take the shot is the people with a weak immune system or specific disease that might kill them. Just like one of my best friends. Weak immune system, he did a specific operation. And that's it. Just like one of my friend's father. He went for an operation that was simple and he got COVID in the hospital. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So you're telling me, you know what? Go have the vaccine just in case we're going to operate you when you're going to do your vasectomy or whatever, because you might get COVID and you might die. That's the reason I have to be careful that I don't accidentally get it in a hospital. I don't know, man. I think it's just a little too far-fetched. Oh, nobody!
Come forward if you disagree.
Shot the moon.
Woo!
I don't think everybody should get it because people who are allergic.
Yeah, kids should not get it. Kids should not get it, and certain people are actually, they might have issues taking a specific vaccine, so it might be even more dangerous for them to allergy and stuff.
To vaccines obviously shouldn't get the vaccine, but I feel like I can see how much COVID can affect family members, and I see like my grandma actually passed away with COVID. She was in a nursing home. That's how she got it. And I feel like herd immunity, I think it could give us back to normal life.
That's what the Dutch people try to do. Herd immunity means that enough people in the community are protected from getting a disease because they already had the disease or they have been vaccinated. But that is a problem. The vaccine that many people, at least the what I've seen on the news, unless I am wrong, is that it doesn't prevent you from receiving it again. It only prevents you to have the symptoms. So there was a question, can get COVID over and over? Because it seems that normally you're not supposed to, but with so many cultures, when you get a disease, they mutate. For example, I could not get chickenpox from nobody on Curacao until I went to Holland and I got it through a Dutch that infected the baby, and this baby gave me chickenpox. They mutate. COVID, they mutate. And that is like a big problem. So herd immunity can work, but it doesn't work perfectly if you have too many cultures, if it stays within your family, because sometimes my kids are perfect, but then until I visit random South American, Moroccan, specific people, when we do a get together, whenever we leave from that child party or whatever, my son is sick. Usually it happens that back in the day, not now. We don't do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think getting a vaccine is incredibly individual choice. Right. So we all have our own medical history. We all have our own medical experiences, how we reacted to vaccines. That being said, I don't think at this point we're going to eradicate COVID-19 with a vaccine. But that doesn't mean that vaccine's not critically important. And the people who should be getting it, they should get the vaccine. I myself did get the vaccine.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all because, again, everyone's body is so different that what might work for you might kill me and vice versa. And so for me, I feel like that's not a risk that I'm willing to take. I actually developed allergies due to vaccines as a kid, and I would break out in hives. It would last, anywhere between 3 days to like 2 weeks. And the doctors throughout like 20 years of my life could never figure it out. It definitely does something to you mentally when you go into an ER and you're in this desperate need for help, and they would just kind of look at me and go like, okay, well, we'll just give you Benadryl and you can go home. It was.
Imagine certain people will go to this girl and they're gonna be like, we don't care if you have a few days of the sickness. You have to vaccinate just in case, because you can just stay at home. Take a leave for a few days. It's normal. I don't know. Look at that family member that I have. She can't even walk anymore. She's in pain. Humongous pain. And now you want me to go convince her to take the second shot? Hell no, she won't.
It wasn't until I became an adult. I worked for several families as a babysitter, and they all happened to be physicians. And some of them talked to me about vaccine injuries. It clicked, because the second that I started making my own medical decisions, that's when all of the side effects just kind of went away.
That's unfortunate because you didn't get the care that you should have gotten. Like, I didn't hear or know about vaccine injury until I started really working in health care and public health. And I have friends who have autoimmune issues, and they have big allergic reactions to certain things. And so they have a huge concern about, of course, this vaccine, COVID vaccine, because, what could happen.
You would trust getting the disease versus the vaccine? The vaccine scares you that much that you would rather get the...
Like, let's say if you had COVID, I would feel so much more comfortable shaking your hand and getting COVID through you and build the antibodies for it than I would to trust the vaccine.
I prefer to get it from everywhere. If my kids could get COVID in a healthy way now, so in the future they don't have to take the shot, officially I would prefer it. Officially. because officially kids can handle it very well at this moment. Just like there's a lot of disease that if you get as a child are much safer than the older you get. So why would I not wish something like that? And then somebody's going, yeah, but I know a baby. You know one story. Let specific people make their own choice. That's what I think. Because in the end, depending on their choice, that one person is gonna go to the hospital. As long as you follow the rules, so you're not hanging around with 25 people at a park, then I don't think you're going to infect the rest of the world when most people are quite clean. As a family, they were like in their 15s. Instead of switching, they were all together drinking. And I saw these two beautiful women. I was like, damn, they're hot. And I was like, why are two random white women watching between a bunch of South American people? I was like, no, they're undercover. Guess what? Undercover cops came, they went there, fined for every head 600 euros, and that birthday party got ruined. The woman was crying, I don't have a job for COVID.
I remember the last episode I had, I was in my closet, and this is when I knew it was really bad because my thoughts were getting really dark, to where I visualized myself cutting off each hive. So would I risk going back there again for this with this vaccine? I just wouldn't.
I had to do some gangster prevention from people almost committing suicide because they're always inside, they have no connection with specific friends, and they feel useless. They can't do anything, everything is freaking closed, nobody cares about that. It's like, you know what, I know a lot of people are dying, so if you accidentally finish your life, hey, you know what, less person to get infected by COVID and you can infect your friends. I don't know. I have to make appointment because everything gets filled and not too many people can go to specific place. But I don't want to keep my kids inside. I want them to have a normal life. I want them to socialize. It's important. The fact that certain kids can't even go to school, I can't even imagine what's happening in their head. For my kid, my son, the autistic one especially, trust me, man, he's not severely autistic. But him watching an iPad constantly, I can see immediately how his mind changes.
I think, again, with your experience of having the vaccines, it totally makes sense. But my recommendation would be, please don't get it naturally. Do everything you can to even prevent yourself from getting it. And the one thing that you guys haven't seen, unfortunately, I think Jacqueline and I have seen it, the death that comes with COVID, it's not a romantic death. It's not noble. It's a miserable, gruesome death. And all you can do, not for hours, but for days and weeks, is to sit there and tell every single person that comes into your room, help me, I can't breathe, for weeks and weeks. This virus pushes you so far beyond your limit that you give up. You give up on the one thing that I can't give you medication for. Right. Hope. You give up hope. And your soul gives up the will to live, the will to fight. And I think that's the hardest part to explain to people, that yes, you guys are young, but the problem is this virus needs you to spread. And when it spreads, it lands on someone named Daniel, who at 59 loses his life and doesn't get to attend his daughter's wedding, doesn't get to walk her down the aisle. And I've had patients where they had it and, they're like, well, I had it, it wasn't bad. And they went to see their relative. And their relative ends up, on life support. So I think that's why it's so important to get vaccinated. It's not for yourself. It's for the people that you don't know, but you're going to come into contact with, and you're going to help this virus spread.
But wait. That doesn't make any sense. You're telling me that I need to get a vaccine, but I can still spread it, right? That doesn't make any sense. The vaccine is supposed to help me when I get it. So shouldn't my family members get it so I can visit them? That doesn't make any sense. This is something they need to clarify, or I have to read more about it, because I think he's going to say something. Wait.
Isn't that under the assumption that the vaccination itself somehow stops you from getting COVID, and that's not true?
Yeah.
The vaccination, actually, both the Pfizer and the Moderna are very successful at
94%.
Can you still get it? Yes. I have had patients that have had their series of vaccines, and even 2 weeks later, they still get the virus. But even when you get it, it's not as severe. You don't need to get hospitalized. And again, if we can break the cycle where there's less people for this virus to spread, that's what we're looking for.
He wants to talk. He wants to talk.
I guess with me on that, if we're talking about the mortality rate is 0.3%, 0.03%, for who were dying. The survival rate is 99.97.
The death rate is higher at that point. It's 1 to 2% actually, the death
1 to
rate.
2%? So if the survival
much
rate
higher.
is 99.97,
It's much
how is
higher
the death
than-
rate?
Not 99.97. Case fatality rates are about, in states, is about 1%.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was
Yeah,
even a
it's
percentage point.
1.2.
What doesn't add up is to take that foreign entity that has so many other things that can affect my body in a negative way that I don't need to put in myself. For what I'm looking at is the percentage of those that when they do get it, this is who may go.
I'm reading from the page of the World Health Organization. They're asking Dr. Catherine, Kate, after one has been vaccinated, can one still catch COVID-19 and can one also infect others? Trials demonstrate that these vaccines protect people against disease. We don't know yet from the clinical trials is whether or not the vaccine also protect people from just getting infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus and whether or not it protects against transmitting to somebody else. So this is really important part of our understanding about what these vaccines do. So you're not even sure. So you want me to take a vaccine and go visit specific people because you know it will protect me, but we're not sure if you can infect your grandma. Well, until that is not clear, how would we know if I don't visit them,
Surviving is different from thriving. I see patients all the time that can't even breathe on their own. The rest of their life, they have
Most people with COVID-19 experience mild symptoms or moderate illness. Approximately 10 to 15% of the cases progress to severe disease and about 5% become critically ill. I know it's a horrible way to go. I'm not saying that I enjoy hearing these numbers. It's really hard for somebody not in that position and you're telling me to do something that I don't even see you suffering from that, but other than a story that you just told me. My friend died of that. My friend died of that too. As if I'm not the one suffering too. I didn't see my father get buried. I've lost some friends. I've lost some family members. I lost a colleague at my work. I got a family member with the vaccine and her leg is humongously huge with these things in her leg and she can't walk. Everybody, I don't tell you my story so you can justify what you're gonna do. I just take the L and I choose something better with my life. And I'm just surprised people don't see that.
sure they didn't die, but now they can't walk up the stairs without feeling shortness of breath.
How many is that?
It's about 30%, and those are not even hospitalized patients. So even people who had mild illness, they develop long haulers.
30%?
Yeah, up to 30%.
I saw all the different age ranges in my house and nobody has anything after.
Affects
She said-
people in different ways.
Exactly. And
Yep, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, when was it normal that somebody tells you, you know what? I am weaker than you. So whatever you're gonna do, make sure you don't get the disease because if I get it, I might be forever in a bad position. When was that normal? I don't get it. Why should a guy change his life because you have a weak immune system? You need to find out why you're weak, go to the doctor, fix that issue. And I'm not trying to be heartless, but is that the rule that we're gonna base everything? But in my experience, certain things happen in life and I've learned to take the L, if it's fair or not. Because if you're not a victim and you're not trying to escape of something, you're in a negative situation, you will find a way to make it positive, especially if you survive. You will see life differently. I've seen people get cancer when they were blamed for being lazy, and then all the family members were like, oh my God, I'm sorry we called you lazy because you had cancer.
I mean, it's not to take away like, man, that's terrible. But what it can do adversely to me and to others, it's going to be impossible to approach it from your perspective because I'm not seeing those patients, right? All the things you guys are saying, I don't believe is false at all. That's your experience.
Right.
But I also know, it's like I told you, I'm going out week in and week out, seeing those old people for 6-7 months and we're laughing, partying, dancing together consistently. I can't just shut that off and go, well, the Times said this and then CNN said this and only the people in the front lines right when those are dying said this, so that means that's the only truth. I mean, you can hear the frustration.
It's just a lot of political nonsense going on. They're not telling us what the vaccine is made out of. They're not telling us the side effects. We're hearing about it on Twitter. People, sitting in bed, can't get out because
Twitter is a good source of information.
they got their body hurt. So for me, it's just like, what is the line about? What's the political agenda about?
It makes you not trust.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
You know?
I hear you. And I think what's always attracted me to medicine, you have to make your decisions based on facts. Not fear, not speculation, not political agendas. But the truth of it was, when this started in March, a lot of my friends started asking me because they said, oh, there's going to be a vaccine. And I'm like, there's going to be a vaccine? It's going to take at least 2 years.
Yep. Yep.
The earliest that we had developed a vaccine before was 4 years. But then in the summertime, it actually went through phase 1 and phase 2. And then it went into started getting phase 3. And the reason why it was actually able to get done within a year period is because, one, they cut all the red tape, because there's a lot of bureaucracy. But then there was also a tremendous amount of collaboration between countries. So I posted when I got my vaccine in December. And some of my friends called me and they're like, you said it wasn't going to be available. And you said also, when it becomes available, you're going to wait 3 to 6 months to get it. What made you change your mind? I said, listen, over this past year, I have seen what this virus can do to people.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Because I think what he has seen, he doesn't want to even go be close to that.
Why you don't know the side effects is because it is a not fully FDA approved vaccination, right? You're putting your faith into something because you know and have trusted a variety of other vaccinations over the course of the years. And you know and you trust the steps and the stages that these different companies went through in order to eliminate a virus that is running rampant over the world.
I think one of the things that really hasn't been publicized is the quote-unquote side effects. The vaccine, the Pfizer and the Moderna, are 2 shots. So the first shot is just to get your immune system kind of used to it, and the second shot is a booster. So the symptoms that you get, the headache, the body aches, the low-grade fever, that's actually not a side effect. That's your immune system working, and they go away. I understand that you had a horrible response and it was much more severe, but for the vast majority of people, we've already vaccinated over 100 million people across the globe. So I think if there was anything more serious, it would have come out.
Well, then I'm sure everyone's seen videos, and there are people who are saying, I'm a nurse, I did this, now the side of their face is flat, or they're shaking all day. When you see and you look up and you're online and that information, that stuff gets censored, taken off YouTube, taken off Instagram, taken off Facebook. It raises that. If you look at Tuskegee experiment, they sat there and shot up a bunch of black men with tuberculosis or with syphilis. Sorry, they didn't say anything, and they've been doing this consistently. We can talk about
smallpox blankets,
right? And it's like we've seen what they've done, and then when you see people get censored for having a different opinion on this stuff over the last 10 months, it makes it that much harder that when they say take the vaccination, I'd be damned to listen to them. I'm not saying you're a liar. I'm not saying you're a liar. I'm not saying you're a liar, but I'm like, you're also saying the same thing. The same people who I've seen show us get shot on TV like it's a sport.
Right.
Like, what is that doing to the psyche of our country? It's still coming from these people or from a group that you go,
you don't have confidence in them.
People should have both stories and make their own decision. You need to convince me, but the fact that he says I'm gonna block it away and you will be convinced, I don't know, man. I can understand where he's coming because he's a doctor and he's seeing stuff, and 100% I do agree. If I was there and I saw how specific people were dying horribly, I don't know even want to take the chances. Okay, well, if you're super healthy as a doctor and you take it and you know everything is Gucci, maybe you're my version. Hey, Gucci, healthy person, do whatever you want. But I think you have to be careful, at least for me, how you want to include people in that.
And I think that's the biggest issue, is the lack of transparency and trust, right? I don't think they're doing it anymore, but remember they came out and it was like, oh, we'll pay people $1,500 to take the vaccine. But isn't this the same government that every time we need a stimulus check, they can't come up with a deal, but they're willing to pay for it? Again, it just looks fishy. It smells fishy. They're not telling us anything.
And there are people that are going to continue to spread COVID-19 because that's just what viruses do. They spread, and we're not going back to normal. We're going to go to some new variation. We're going to have our own variant of normalcy, and we're creating those things right now as we do the process.
I don't like the sound of that, but I'm going to keep listening.
Opening back up. I know that my district is planning to do soft open. You still have to be aware, though, that these kids, they don't have a vaccine, so my students are coming back into the classroom. Are they going to be passing it to each other? Because guess what? A lot of them have had COVID over this break.
You asked a really good question.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I totally forgot about the kids. They're running around without any Yeah, those little bastards infecting people.
Normal. And I think the honest truth is we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. Now this one, you know, the mortality rate is like 1 to 2%, maybe a little bit lower. But what if the variants come up to 10%, 15%? Now that's a game changer. What if it gets to be like Ebola, where it kills 40% of the people? This virus is just so tricky, so elusive, it just changes so much.
That is a very good point. That is a very good point. All this mumbo jumbo, I was like, nah man, you're talking poo-poo. But that's a very good point. Because if what he's saying is true, and that stuff can go to 40, I would have regret if I was outside doing stuff like normal. I'm gonna have to admit that. He made a very good point. Glad I watched this video. I'm not trying to fearmonger you, but he is right. It's a virus, it's mutating, and if it came from the Wuhan lab to infect people and be more gangster, and that is what it was designed to do, ouch. This is something that I always like. I keep telling people, whenever I speak with somebody that's opposite to me in beliefs or whatever, I can always come to a common ground. I wouldn't say like, hey, I'm gonna take the vaccine immediately, but I did hear some perspective that made me realize, maybe I need to take it more seriously because I don't know the longer consequences. And it's interesting to have these conversations because the next time I might meet somebody, I can actually provide my point to show them, hey, I've done my part. I know where you're coming from, but this is my situation. And you can have an interesting thing, you know. It's like, even if you're wrong, you just take the L. Or even if they respond in an interesting way, you will upgrade your mind. It's like it's a fun, good experience and it's healthy. If they did this, like this, for example, and made me feel correct or good in the beginning, I think they would have handled it so much better. But they were blocking everybody. Joe Rogan couldn't even have doctors come online to talk about the whole virus. I thought it was very weird. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Don't be afraid to put a comment if you have a secret name so people don't judge you. YouTube will delete it maybe accidentally, who knows. But hey, let me know what you guys think. I thought this is a very interesting video and hope to see you guys next time. Peace.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Buta fire na mi blonde, kush hash, purple skunk, criollo, colombici, jam, turloqueta, verdeta, welcome.